For the most realistic steering system available on the market, look no further than Sim Steering from Leo Bodnar. Designed and hand-built at the home of British Motorsport's Silverstone circuit, it's extensively used by professional driver training centres and race teams including Formula 1 since 2010. The high precision and completely linear response coupled with high strength provides the ultimate in realistic steering force feedback. Visit simsteering.com.
Take your hobby to the next level with a quality racing rig that works great with a PS3, Xbox 360, and a PC. The GT Omega Racing Simulator is compatible with a wide range of steering wheels including Logitech, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, and more. The GT Omega is available now worldwide by going to www.gtomegaracing.com.
Good evening iRacers and welcome to ARL TV's broadcast of the Skip Barber 2K Cup. We are at round 3, final round of this little preview season from Barber Motorsport Park. My name is Lee Thompson and joining me or resuming commentary duties with me this week is Conrad Venter. Good evening, Conrad.
Good evening, it's nice to be back.
And it's nice to have you back, sir. We are 5 minutes and 45 seconds through this first qualifying session, or the only qualifying session rather. And I think most of the cars are already halfway through their second attempt of 3 that they have in this single car qualifying format. So they've each got 3 laps to make this qualifying run. We've seen mostly familiar faces so far, Conrad, but a couple of different names in there as well from the previous 2 races.
Yeah, it's been. It looks like there's been a little bit of a rotation of drivers. They are hoping to get a few more in once the proper season starts. But I think with it being a couple of off weeks, and we're in week 13 for iRacing, and the official stuff over and done with, everybody is taking a bit of a break. Hopefully, once everything gets going, we'll have a much bigger field, and fireworks can kick off.
Yeah, I'm really thinking we're going to have pretty much a completely full grid for the full season once the prize money kicks in and that sort of stuff. So I think this is they've been hanging all right with the grid numbers for this little taster. Right, so we're waiting for a couple more laps still to come in of guys completing their runs, but certainly I think Sebastian Job is one to have maybe completed all 3 of his laps already. Currently on pole position is Riku Alatalo with a 1 minute 38.075. Riku finished second at round 1 after misjudging his fuel at Bathurst. Currently in second is Sebastian Job with a 1 minute 38.4. It's a fair bit slower than we saw him manage in qualifying. I think in practice. Sorry, I think 38.1 he managed in practice. And currently in third position is Bart Dalat, which is a good strong result for him at the moment. He finished a little way further down in the last round, down in 16th. So he seems much more comfortable here at Barber. But I think we've still got a couple of laps still to turn in, see what times people can get in for their final run.
Yeah, everybody, with the exception of Alatalo, seems to be a little bit slower in qualifying than they were in practice. The lap times for the top 10 and then practice range from a 38.0 to a 38.9. So everyone top 10 was all within a second. So it promises to be a good race, good close race at least.
Yeah, and it seems like the big hitters that we saw from the practice sessions leading up to this have actually already completed their 3 laps, I reckon. So we'll wait and see if anyone dives out just at the end of the session. But it doesn't look like any of the top 4 or 5 cars are still running. So the most noticeable names missing from the top of the pile are Simon Hulbert, who's not running this little preview season yet, but he was right in the top 3 in practice. I know him from the Radical series. He's extremely fast, and as I said, yeah, Sebastian Job not quite running the pace that he did have, but still in second position for now. And Philip Labert, he was a little bit further up, I think in 4th in practice, and he's down in 7th for a minute. So as you said, everyone apart from Riku, I think, finding it a little bit tough just to pull out these 3 laps.
Yeah, well, it's all come to an end now. I think we're waiting for yeah. There's 2 cars still out on track. One is Graham Carroll, who's 3rd at the moment. He's possibly looking just to push himself up to the front row, and it's Duncan Coppedge is the other driver, currently sitting in 12th on a 39.9.
Yeah, and Duncan's been a name we've seen in both rounds so far. So he finished in 7th position at the first race at Bathurst, but had a tougher time of it at Circuit of the Americas, disconnecting after several laps of the race, I think. Yeah, 9 laps remaining at the end of the race when he disconnected last time. So he'll be hoping for a finish more like at round 1 at Bathurst. I think then that is looking like pretty much everyone wrapped up. The qualifying session is over, so we are going to have a quick run through the grid whilst we wait for everybody to start gridding up. So pole position then was Rico Alatelli with a 1 minute 38.075. Second position Sebastian Job, just over 3 tenths behind. He'll be quite disappointed with that, but he's hung on to that second position nonetheless. Graham Carroll snuck in there in that 3rd position, just 16 thousandths of a second slower than Sebastian Job, with Bart de Laat in 4th. So I think Graham Carroll and Bart de Laat will be very happy with their positions on the grid to start them off for the race. Simon Hulbert then with a 38.6, Kip Dent in 6th, Philip Leibert in 7th, George Wiseman 8th, Matt Defoe 9th, Tapani Haka in 10th, Fahim Antoinades in 11th, Duncan Coppedge 12th, Kartik Pay in 13th, Edward Cavalier 14th, Carlos Casas 15th, John Unsby 16th, Adrian Saldana is the last qualifier in 17th position.
Yeah, and it looks like most of them are on the grid. We're just about to get going.
So Rico Alatelli's got the inside line as a line-up waiting to head off towards turn 1. It'll be good to see another battle again between Riku and Sebastian like we saw at round 1. Right, I can hear the res building, and the lights go green, and they're off, and it looks like a stronger start from Riku. I think initially off the line, Sebastian might be under a little bit of pressure, but I think he's going to hold on to that second position for the moment, and looks pretty clean further down the grid.
Yeah, everybody through turn 1 cleanly, and as Linus turn 3, turn 2 and 3 as well, coming up to turn 4, and if they're close enough, turn 6 is or turn 5 is a good place for overtaking.
Yeah, in those opening corners, didn't really see any changes of position particularly, but I'm watching now Graham Carroll defending from Bart de Laat as Bart de Laat looks to get a drive out of turn 5 as they head now towards turn 7 and 8. Bart de Laat's going to be on the outside. I think Graham Carroll's got the space covered.
Yes, this little corner here, this turn 7, 8 and 9 is definitely not a place where you want to go into too wide. I tried it in the radicals and it definitely didn't work out too well for me.
So Rico Alatelli leading the field through the chicane, followed by Sebastian Job, and then Graham Carroll in 3rd still. Bart de Laat challenging for 4th, in fact defending from Simon Hulbert in 5th. Kip Dent then in 6th with Philip Leibert 7th, George Wiseman 8th, Matt Defoe 9th, and top 10 is Fahim Antoinades.
As all everybody and Bart de Laat having a big moment into the second to last corner. I think Simon Hulbert will be having a little look going into turn 1 now.
Yeah, Bart did a good job recovering that, but it was unlucky with the part of the lap where it is. It really gave Simon the opportunity to have a drive all the way down the straight. Here he goes into turn 1, takes that inside line and looks pretty comfortable now. They need to hold a tight line then as they come through the entry of turn 2, as we're watching Philip Leibert as well, just behind, looking to take that tighter line and just pushing Kip Dent out a little bit wide. I think Philip may just get that position done, and Philip Leibert then, yes, up into 5th position, or 6th position, sorry.
Yeah, I think Kip Dent was hindered a little bit by the action going on in front of him. He was definitely having a look as well at Bart de Laat.
And Kip Dent managed to come back to him at turn 5, so I think Kip Dent still side by side with Philip there, as they have been pretty much for halfway around the lap now. Philip's got the inside line for this 7, 8, 9 section.
That's the wonderful thing about this little car. It really lends itself to close racing, and we've seen them going side by side through corners here, where you wouldn't dream of doing it in another car.
So with this little bit of squabbling, the top three are breaking away. So Rico Alatello, half a second to 3/4 of a second ahead of Sebastian Job, who's under lots of pressure from Graham Carroll at the minute. So great run from him at the moment. And then we've got this little grouping behind, led by Simon Hulbert, who's got the pace to close up to that top three, with Bart Delat just trying to hang on to his slipstream, and Philip Laibert trying to create a bit of space for Kip Dent behind. Looks like we've got a good little train of cars gathering in the middle, as I see, I think that's Fahim just having a big oversteer moment there, and he's going to lose out to Duncan Cobbage as they come through the final corner into the straight.
They were so close to each other going through that final corner. Fahim Antoine Enders just nearly running into the side of Duncan Cobbage.
So we've seen a couple of cars so far have a big oversteer moment through, what is it, turn 14 leading to turn 15. So obviously it looks like a tough corner in these cars, but they've both been able to gather them up so far and carry on.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of this is down to the updates and the tyre model that we had in this past week.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys have had, say, just 5-6 days now to adapt to the new tyre model. I've not really had a chance to do much, if any, running so far this week. But I know, Conrad, you've been spending a good bit of time in the new IndyCar. What are your thoughts to the tyres? What are these guys going to be dealing with, do you think?
I think for me it's difficult to say. Not having or getting to compare the newer updates, having experience from the older. From what we had before, especially because it's a new car. But I gave it a little go in the MX-5, and it was, well, to me it came across as you've got to treat the tyres nicely. You've got to be kind on them, otherwise they will bite you back, and it will hurt you later on in the race.
So it'll be interesting to see as this race goes through then whether the times do drop off at all. I think we've seen in the previous two rounds on the previous tyre version that really they've been able to run pretty much at their qualifying pace lap after lap, or even a bit quicker in the draft. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if even in these skippies, where I guess they're supposed to have quite a hard compounder tyre, I would imagine, for cost purposes and things in real life, I'm not having to replace tyres too often. Be interesting to see is there if somewhere.
Laibert is off the track, coming back on, nearly getting Kip Dent in the side, but he's back on. And up into turn 4, sorry, and he's possibly going to have a look down into 6 again.
Ooh, it looked like Philip went in a little bit hot there. Yeah, it looked like Philip was just a little bit ambitious on the brakes. Hopefully that's not going to be damaged for either of those two cars. And yeah, Kip Dent holds on for now. That's 6th position.
Yeah, Kip as they took that knock on the rear wing, has definitely got some damage. Hopefully it doesn't affect the handling of the car. It was not really much he could do about that. Somebody running into his backside. Perhaps
the spot for us to look out at is how he's dealing with it is coming through that turn 15, where we've seen people have a couple of oversteer moments so far, and if he gets clean through there, then fingers crossed he gets away with it.
Yeah, Laibert's got a bit of front wing damage as well, but I think it's likely to hurt him a little bit less than it does Dent.
And yeah, Dent runs a little bit wide as they come through the fast right-hander there, which was turn 13, I think. Yeah, he's going to continue to be under pressure, I think, from Philip.
It would appear that we've already got George Wiseman is in the pits. It's fairly early to make a pit stop.
Yeah, so mandatory pit stop, remember, for perhaps viewers who haven't seen this series already, so they're all fuel restricted. The stats leading up to the race suggested that they could go all but 2 laps of the fuel with the maximum fuel they're allowed to start with. So the drivers are pretty free to pit at any time during the race that they feel, really. Back up front, Rico Alatello has been closed upon now by Sebastian Job. So Sebastian Job now is as close to Rico Alatello in first as Graham Carroll is behind him in third. In fact, Graham's just dropped back slightly through the previous corner, and we've got a great battle going on at the minute between Simon Hulbert in 4th, Kip Dent then back up into 5th, and Philip Laibert in 6th. Does that mean we're missing a car? That means we are missing Bart Delat. Was that the car that just pitted, did you say? Sorry, Conrad?
George Wiseman was in the pits. Simon Hulbert had a at a moment through turn 1, ran wide onto the grass, and that's why he's fallen back into the clutches of Kip Dent.
Yeah, and it's Bart Delat that I was missing, and scrolling back through the field I see him back in 11th position now, so Bart Delat must have had a moment somewhere. Shame for him after his extremely strong qualifying. So, sorry. We apologise over each other, but yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, Simon Horbert still defending from Kip Dent in 5th and Philip Labert in 6th. Looks like Simon's going to be under lots and lots of pressure now from Kip, so I'm glad to see he's perhaps not struggling too much of that rear wing damages. Philip Labert goes into the pits. He had me worried for a second. I see him dive off in a different direction, but Philip decides to get out of that battle, get some clean running, try and make up some ground later on in the race.
Yeah, they're currently running in the low 1 minute 40s, which is about a second and a half off their qualifying pace. So he's probably thinking, just get into the pits, like you say, get clear and possibly jumping these two guys in front of him through the pit stops.
And so we've seen maybe half a dozen cars now, at least in the pit lane so far, and I think this is the earliest we've seen so many drivers commit to that. So I think perhaps they've had a bit of a look at where other people have gained elsewhere in the season, in the previous 2 races, and we have seen that work where people have gotten out into their free air, and they've really capitalised later on. So it seems a lot more people are trying to perhaps use that tactic now. As I watch Sebastian Job under pressure now again from Graham Carroll as they come through the 7-8-9 chicane, but Sebastian Job still in 2nd position. That Williams Martini livery on Graham Carroll looks amazing on that Skip Barber.
George Wiseman has managed to come out in front of Labert through the pit stops, but Labert making the pass through turn 5. Another reason for Labert making an early pit stop is to get himself a new front wing. They of course get a fast repair in the series through the race.
Yeah, it seems George Wiseman's gained quite a bit of time on Philip there, or Philip's lost quite a bit of time to George, because they were separated by a reasonable amount of cars, I think, before the pit stop. So, we are just about to complete lap 7, and Rico Alatalo is still got this 1st position, with Sebastian Job as close as he's been, as I've seen him from the start of the race, in 2nd. Graham Carroll just tucked in there in 3rd still, so we'll keep a very close eye on them. In 4th position is still Simon Horbert, with Kip Dent still all over the back of him, trying to push up into that 5th position. Matt Defoe then in 6th, Duncan Coppedge 7th, Bart Delat recovering from an error he had somewhere else. As I watch him have an error again in turn 1, just about keeps it out of the wall, gets it back on track, pointed the right way. Just about. He just overcooked it into turn 1, I think, oversteer, and has lost himself a good chunk of time. But then I'm seeing Carlos Casas behind in 9th, with John Unsby in 10th. Let's scroll back and see where the first of the cars that I know have pitted are. The first car that I know of is Philip Labert, who is currently in 13th position, I think, first of the pitted runners.
We've seen these guys making a lot of mistakes coming into turn 1, and there's about a second to last corner as well. I'd be very interested to know if this is down to the tyres. They're making a lot more mistakes than I remember seeing them making around Bathurst.
Yeah, I think, as I said, we've personally not got the experience in these cars so far this week. We haven't done any running in them, but from other cars, as you say, we know that if you push these tyres to the limit, then they can potentially give up quite quickly, and we've got to nurse these cars around a bit. But then equally, you look at the leaders, and I'm seeing them, power sliding out the corners and drifting into the corners. So perhaps there's still a reasonable balance there where you can still push hard on them.
Yeah, as you say, that Sebastian Job runs a little bit wide coming out of the last corner, and Graham Carroll gaining a bit of time and going into turn 1. But for those front 3, it's pretty much line astern, and like week 1. Obviously, I wasn't around for week 2. A lot of it's going to come down to the pit stops, how efficient they are getting through that.
Yeah, week 2 we didn't quite have the same grouping of cars that we're seeing at the minute. So, for instance, at the end of the last race, we had 6 seconds between 1st and 2nd, and a further 12 seconds then between 2nd and 3rd. So this is already looking like a much closer event, more like we saw at Bathurst. So I'm really looking forward to see how the strategy of those early pit stoppers plays out later, if it draws anyone a bit further up, particularly Philip and the car he was driving against. Who that was? I've forgotten. Kip Dent, that was it. They've gone through 2 different strategies between the 2 of them, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out later on.
Top 3 as well. They've broken away from the rest of the field. They're a good 8 seconds clear of them. Graham Carroll having a bit of a moment coming through the chicane, and he's lost a good chunk of time there. But yeah, they've broken away, and they play it smartly. They can they should be able to help each other, and then have it out amongst themselves towards the end of the race.
I believe Riku Alatalo is perhaps the first car to break into 1 minute 37, so he's currently got the fastest lap with a 1 minute 37.9. Just runs a couple of tenths slower on this next lap, so they are running quicker than what they managed in qualifying, and in fact Sebastian Job on that lap has managed a 37.8, so he's really looking to continue to push Riku along.
I always find it amazing how they managed to go faster in a race than they went in qualifying. Where was that lap in qualifying? Sebastian Job having a little look going into the hairpin. I'm pretty sure at this point in time, unless Alatalo makes a big mistake, he'd be quite happy just to sit there, have a little look, and sit in the draft as a leader. There's no point really at the moment going for an overtake and losing them both time.
No, so I think wait until the pit stops and done and dusted a little bit more really before you take any bigger risks. But yeah, good to see Sebastian keeping with Riku again, as we saw at Bathurst. I don't think we said in the last race, but congratulations to Sebastian for provisionally receiving his pro license at the end of season 2. Just waiting for it to physically come through, I think, on the service. But he hopefully will be able to join Riku on the WCS grid for the remainder of this 2014 season.
Yeah, it's a fantastic achievement. We shouldn't forget that he hasn't been driving that W13 for very long, and to get his pro license in his first full season is a pretty good job.
As Sebastian moves around in Riku's mirrors as they head towards turn 1, just trying to distract him a little bit, but Riku is far too experienced to get caught out of that, as I see Sebastian close very rapidly on the back of Riku's gearbox there, but they managed to sort themselves out, exit the corner fairly happily. It looks like Graham Carroll was just managing to recover that gap a little bit after his error, a lap or 2 ago now, so he's gradually making this back into a clean little 3-car group again. Simon Hulbert still got Kip Dent all over the back of him, battling for that 4th position, with Matt Defoe having Duncan Coppage gradually catching as well for 6th and 7th. I think Duncan was actually a couple of tenths slower that last time by.
That's the most frustrating thing in this car. It's so efficient in the draft, and somebody can make a mistake, but as long as they're within 2 seconds of you, there's every chance they're going to make that time back up. So it'll be very interesting to see once the proper season kicks off as well. If this is the type of formation Alatalo and Job is gonna follow, because once when they get to the end of the season, Alatalo might just be a little bit sick of seeing Sebastian Job in his rearview mirror.
So just a matter of waiting now to see when these guys are going to make their pit stops, I think. So we're on end of lap 10, about to start lap 11. We've got 25 laps of this race actually, so we're still pretty early on. They've got plenty of fuel available to them. As I said earlier, they can go, I think, 2 laps from the end if they really wanted to. So it's just going to be really a waiting game for us to see where everyone slots in who's made those earlier stops. But Graham Carroll now really has closed that gap back up and well and truly back in the draft, making this 3-car group again. So we've got some nice little pairings going on at the minute with the top 3 and battling over that podium spot with 4th and 5th Simon Hulbert and Kip Dent, and 6th and 7th Matt Defoe and Duncan Coppage. Let's have a little look further down the field. I think everybody else is looking pretty well strung out now further back. I'm not seeing any other battles until I loop all the way back around the track back to the leaders again. So it really is the top 3, 4th, 5th and 6th and 7th.
Yeah, we've got another car in the pits. Kartik Pai is taking his fuel, and he's off again. He's came into the pits 10th place. He has dropped, it looks like 16th at the moment.
Yeah, this Barber circuit is very, very fast, pretty flowing, lots of elevation changes as well, and we've seen these cars struggle a little bit with kind of mid to entry oversteer at times. I have to say, Barber somehow is a circuit that I've barely run, if ever, to be honest, in this service. I'm not quite sure how I've not tended to come across it in the schedule. Have you done much running here at all, Conrad?
We did a little bit of it in the Radicals and in Season 2, and that was quite a good track for the car. Other than that, it was my first 2 seasons in the Riley Daytona prototype, and that was as nice as the track is. It was a very frustrating time for me because it's a very, in the bigger cars, it's a very tight circuit, and you don't have a lot of overtaking opportunities, and that makes it really difficult.
Yeah, it seems pretty narrow most of the way around, and I mean the front straight is a reasonable length, but I'm imagining not a great amount to really build up a good head of steam. I mean, is there anywhere on the track that really stands out as being particularly tricky? I got the impression earlier on maybe you were talking about those turns 7, 8 and 9 chicane that the leaders are just going through now?
Yeah, it's 7, 8 and 9 is a blind trio of corners you head into. You can't see turns 8 and 9 in particular as you approach it, so it makes it really difficult to know where to aim to make those corners onto the back straight. And another particular difficult bit that I found was obviously turn 5, because it's a downhill braking section into a hairpin, and then the last 2 corners of 14, well, second to last corner, 14 and 15, where it's so difficult to judge how much speed you can carry through them, especially into 15, and you can lose so much time there, but again you can make up a lot as well.
Yeah, it seems that turn 14 and 15 you probably want to, I can see why these guys are having their oversteer moments going through that section, because you want to go in extremely quick, I imagine, because really there's not then much of an exit before you're straight back at turn 16 again, so you can really sacrifice your extra speed and yeah, risk everything a little bit more in the entry, and that's where we've seen these guys have their little moments.
The problem with it for me was there wasn't really any reference points which I could pick up to slow down for 15. So you were sort of guessing. It was a guessing game most of the time, and if you got it right, and you'd be immensely pleased, but there's no way you could replicate it.
And so still these leading 3 cars are building away from the rest of the field. Between the 3 of them, they are running from a very high 37 to a low 38, whereas then Simon Hulbert is now on his own. He ran a 39.4 last time by, so I'm guessing that means Kip Dent hopefully has made his pit stop rather than having made an error somewhere. Matt Defoe and Duncan Coppedge are also running in the 39s. They are looking pretty close together still, running in 5th and 6th position.
Yeah, Kip Dent is just coming through turn 5, so that looks about right for a pit stop.
Where has he come out in relation to Philip Labert? Because Philip was one of the first cars to make his stop, I believe, of the leaders.
Kip Dent has come out in 11th position, and Philip Labert and George Wiseman is in 9th and 10th respectively. It looks like there's about a 10-second gap between Labert and Kip Dent. Some of these guys really reaping the benefits of taking the earlier pit stop.
Watching Sebastian Job get a good run coming out of turn 5, I think it was. No, coming out of turn 4, sorry, and it lines up into turn 5, gets down the inside. I was busy looking at my track map, I didn't see he did get the position done. They're almost 3 wide now as they're heading down to the next section towards the 7, 8, 9 section. Sebastian Job seems like he's got the momentum. Rico Alatello has got the inside line. I know Rico can be pretty bold on the entry on times, but he sense takes the option this time, and Sebastian Job, after hounding Rico Alatello for the previous 13 laps, has managed to move up into top spot. Rico Alatello now gets to sit in the draft, see what it's like sitting there, save a bit of fuel maybe, and Graham Carroll there still holding that third position. So yeah, great job getting a drive out of turns 3 and 4. Sebastian Job up the inside in turn 5. We'll see if he can perhaps pull away at all. I think it'll be tough because the guys in the draft have tended to be able to hang there quite easily, it seems.
I think there's so little in times between these three guys. It'll be really difficult for one to pull away from the other.
We've got our first back marker as well, which is going to be go the right way on my screen might help. Adrian Saldana, who's currently running in 17th. His last lap was a 41.8, so good few seconds slower, but I think timing should work out for him to be caught at a reasonable, sensible time for everyone, so hopefully we'll have no further issues there. Scrolling back through, we've still got Matt Defoe being ever closely followed by Duncan Coppedge. Duncan ran just a tenth slower last time by, but he was looking to make a move into turn 1 and had to back out of it slightly as I see the rear end kicking out as they head through end turns 2 and 3.
These two have been stuck to each other since lap 1, and yeah, hopefully they can keep it up for the next 10 laps. But yeah, I was wondering on the previous lap with Sebastian Job overtaking Alatalo, how tempted Carroll was just to stick his nose in somewhere to go for an overtake, because obviously done that straight. He had the double benefit of the draft as well, and he was closing down on them very, very quickly.
Yeah, I definitely was thinking about it. They didn't look far off from 3 wide as Sebastian Job now looks to deal with a back marker who moves sensibly out of the way right to the outside of a track, and all 3 cars get through without any significant inconvenience as they come through the penultimate corner, through now turn 16 and onto the front straight to complete lap 15. And Simon Hulbert makes his stop from 4th position. Tricky little pit lane entrance here. I can imagine a fair bit of time can be won and lost. We'll see where he comes out in relation to Kip Dent.
Yeah, Kip Dent is just coming through the first of the chicanes on the back end of the track. Making his way into turn 14.
Simon Hulbert. Oh, typical. Poor for unlucky for Kip Dent, but Simon Hulbert, I was going to say, is now stationary in his pit box. We'll see where he comes out in relation to Philip Labert. Just scrolling through, and Philip Labert is already coming past pit lane entrance, and Simon Hulbert is only now just pulling away. So these early pit stops are working out for now.
Yeah. Kip Dent coming. He managed to catch that slide he had. Is coming into turn 1, and Simon Hulbert's easily cleared him as we have a stranded Duncan Coppedge.
So I think that's a hardware failure. Perhaps he's had a wheel disconnect or his monitors blank out, because he's not been able to escape from the track. He's just sat on the apex. Fortunately, I think far enough around the corner to be just about far enough offline not to inconvenience the cars too much, but yeah, he has now cleared from the track and returned to pit lane, thankfully. Yeah, that was a shame for Duncan, looking like a strong race for him otherwise. Sorry.
Yeah, it looks like he did try to pull off the track. He just couldn't park the car on the grass. Well, that's a real shame.
So just checking in with the leaders again, we still have Sebastian Job leading from Riku Alatello, but Riku is extremely close with Graham Carroll, perhaps sensibly, just holding back slightly just in case these two get tangled up a little bit. These are really the last guys at the front half of the field that we're waiting for their stops to happen. I think pretty much the whole rest of the field, by scrolling through their positions on the track, must have made their stops by now, I think.
Yeah, it's just coming down to him playing the waiting game for those who haven't pitted, and trying to make up time on the non-stoppers. See if they can jump each other in the pit stops. But unfortunately, Duncan Coppedge, yeah, he's disconnected. He's out of the race. So, like I said, obviously some kind of hardware malfunction. There's still no sign of any of the top 3 making a dash for the pits. They are 33 seconds clear of 4th place Matt Defoe and Philip Labert, and then further 9 seconds back, closely followed by Carlos gases.
Yeah, and
People are gonna shoot me for the surname pronunciation.
I'm watching Simon Hulbert and George Wiseman make their way through on John Unsby a little bit as they're recovering after their pit stop. I think Philip Labor has been promoted up into 4th position after Matt Defoe made a pit stop on that lap.
Yeah, I've still got Matt Defoe in 4th place and Philip Labor in 5th. I might be wrong. It's happened before.
Yeah, I think just Matt Defoe made his pit stop on this lap as far as I can see. But it's good to see at the minute that the pit stops haven't blown the midfield apart at all. So from Carlos Casas, who I think is still to pit, through to Simon Hulbert, George Wiseman, John Unsby, Kip Dent, Matt Defoe, who says recovered at 4th position. They are all within just a second or so of each other, so it'll be interesting to see whether that grouping closes up or breaks apart a little bit as they settle into their final stints or come to the end of their first stint. And I'm watching Sebastian Job under a little bit of pressure again from Riku Alatalo, but Graham Carroll now has closed right back up to the front two. He certainly hasn't held back at all now. I think Riku Alatalo perhaps is going to be shaping up for a move maybe sooner rather than later, but just hangs back a little bit for the moment. Gets a much better exit coming out of the corner though. Sebastian Job, I think, is going to have him well and truly on his gearbox as they come through turns 14 and 15, then all three of them continue by for another lap.
Yeah, we got the message that Duncan Cobbage had a screen that locked up. I'm pretty sure that's happened to most of us before, and it's very, very frustrating when you sit on the track. You can hear everything happening, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it looked like I think everybody was fairly lucky, and I didn't see anyone get particularly caught up. So fortunately, could have been a lot worse. So yeah, unlucky Duncan. We'll hope to see him back in the full season, which I believe starts from very next week.
It should be very interesting. Am I right in thinking that they're going to run alongside the official series?
Yes, I believe it is the official schedule that they are running. I think we're expecting fields of up to 50 cars if the track allows it with the number of pit stalls. So considering races we've had here, when we've had somewhere between 24 and I think we've got 17 today, was it? We can expect some, well, we're going to have a lot of hard work, I think, commentating with a field twice the size, Conrad.
Yeah, I think we might need a third person in here to help us out. Yeah, coming out of turn 9, Sebastian Job just looking like he was running a little bit wide. Alatalo got a bit of a tighter exit, and Carroll again just cruising up to the back of Alatalo. At some point, these guys are going to have to leave the pleasantries at the door, and they're going to have to make a fight of it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they all copy each other and wait for Sebastian to pit and all dive in together, or if one of them does decide to dive in a lap early and try and get run. I think, yeah, we saw with the other cars further back in the grid, perhaps they were holding each other up. But I think these guys are benefiting from the draft. So I think if you were to take the risk and pit a lap earlier than the others, I think it may just cost you a second or two, perhaps, in time.
Yeah, luckily they're ahead far enough to come out of the pits and not fall into any traffic. That might be one advantage of it.
I think we're going to see fairly soon John Unsby perhaps lose another position to Matt Defoe. So I think John is still to make his pit stop, I believe, and Matt Defoe was running in 4th position for his pit stop.
Carroll losing an engine. He's out of the race.
I had a pause. I tried to see who it was. I heard the engine pop, but Graham Carroll, an unfortunate debut or end to the debut race of this season, but that was looking so strong onto there, and even as Riku Talu continues around, he's able to type on his keyboard at the same time. That's quite sickening.
Yeah.
While
that was happening, Sebastian Job ran wide into turn 5, and that allowed Graham Carroll and Alatalo to go through, and just as they were exiting turn 5, the engine went on Graham Carroll's car. That was really unlucky.
As unfortunate, Sebastian Job now then has got a lot of work to do if he wants to recover this, what looks like 3, maybe up to 4 seconds that he's lost on Riku Alatello. Maybe the time would be to take a slight risk, maybe, and take a slightly different strategy, maybe pit as soon as he can and see what happens, because otherwise if they both pit on the same lap, I can't see Sebastian Job doing any better than the second position he's currently in. Scrolling back through then, that puts Philip Labour up into 3rd position with Simon Hallbert in 4th. George Wiseman has moved up now into 5th, with Carlos Casas looking like he's going to be under pressure from Kip Dent for, what was that going to be then, 6th and 7th. Matt Devoe has made that move on John Unsby into 9th. How was that, 8th? I've lost track now because my numbers are out of track until updates with Graham Carroll, but either way John Unsby is back, and perhaps that's going to put Fahim then into the top 10, I think.
Yeah, coming back to Sebastian Job, he might do well just to dive into the pits. He's got a bit of front wing damage as well, and so if he makes an earlier pit stop than he planned on originally, he can get that fixed as well. It's worth a chance. It's worth a shot. I mean, he's got nothing to lose by it now.
Exactly. If he just copies Riku, then he's not going to have gained or lost anything. So, as I said, he's certainly not going to lose another position as long as nothing catastrophic happens.
Yeah, that was an eventful couple of laps. I'm not. I don't know how many times before you've driven the Skippy, but I'm not sure I've seen too many engines blow up on this car before.
No, I can't. I'm trying to think back to the previous 2 races that we've done so far for this series. I don't think we've seen any blows so far here, as I watched George Wiseman having to defend from Kip Dent, trying to drive straight around the outside of George through turn 5, but that didn't work out. George managed to get a much better run out the corner, and they are battling for 5th position. So Sebastian Job has decided to continue on for now. He has not pitted so far. His lap times, Riku Alatello, I was just about to say Riku Alatello got a 37.8 last time by, but he has a big moment in on the entry to turn 2. I think he just clipped the grass on the outside of turn 1 / entry to turn 2, and was very lucky not to then spear straight across the track into the outside wall. So that would have gained a little bit of time for Sebastian, but he was 3/10 slower last time by.
Oh well, these guys are definitely keeping us on our toes, just as we think one has got the upper hand over the other. They all bring it back together again.
John Unsby has a little spin from 8th position, but seems to recover without damage.
It'd be interesting to hear from some of these guys that's picked up some of these problems. Well, the tyres would be one that I think would be interested to hear about, and also Graham Carroll reckons that his Skippy overheated, and that was the cause for the engine blowout. Very unusual.
Yeah, I haven't heard too many reports generally of engines overheating. I certainly remember a good few builds ago now. I guess it must have been a year and a half ago now. God, I've been playing iRacing for a long time, as I watched Sebastian Job beautifully drift through turn 15, almost as if it was planned. If we get a replay of that, that would be a good little onboard shot there, but Sebastian Job just about managing to maintain control. I was going to say, I remember builds a long time ago, 18 months ago, where the Daytona prototypes kept blowing their engines extremely easy from over-revving. I think it was where they put in the flexible transmission, I seem to remember it was. But I haven't heard any general complaints as to engines struggling, so perhaps just a misjudgment from Carroll there with perhaps just the way he was managing the gear shifts, or I don't know, who knows.
We shall find out.
And Kip Dent then has managed to move up into that 5th position. So last time I checked in with him, he was trying to go around the outside at turn 5 and not being able to make that work. But next lap by, he has now moved up into that 5th position. George Wiseman relegated to 6th. Matt Defoe is catching both of them very, very quickly. I think he was a good few seconds further back when I last checked in. So I think Matt Defoe perhaps is going to be the next car on the move.
Alatello just coming up to John Unsby to put a lap on him. John is a very experienced driver, very clean driver. I'm sure there'll be no problems getting for Alatello to get past him here. But yeah, you never know. It might just be another little opportunity for Sebastian Job to. Well, as I say that, Alatella heads into the pits.
And so does Sebastian. So yeah, Sebastian decided just to copy Riku, which, you know, let's say it's going to keep him in second position, but unless something strange happens in the pit stops, pit lane speeding, or a misjudgment with fuel, which we know can happen from the previous races, I think that is going to just guarantee Sebastian a second position at best.
Oh, hopefully they remember to untick their tyres.
I'm watching Bart Delat recover from his spin earlier in the race. I believe he just made a position on Fahim Antonadez, and so that is Bart Delat in 8th and Fahim down into 9th position.
Rick Alatalo again with a very quick pit stop, like we saw in round 1 as well. Sebastian Job definitely losing a whole chunk of time through that pit stop, just through stationary time.
It's interesting. I think some of the little variation that we might see in pit stop times is where I think the drivers, some or all of them, are trying to manually cancel the fueling as it ticks along, I think. So because they've got this tight fuel restriction, I think there's no point in letting it fill up to the minimum that iRacing would allow, because then they would have far more fuel than they actually need. So I think they're manually cancelling it, and I guess that can make quite a big difference to the time in the pit as to how close you cut it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a bit of a double whammy for Sebastian Job. Not only did he spend more time in the pits, but he also had 2 back markers between himself and Riku because of the extra time that he spent in the pit stop. And he nearly collected one of them into turn 9. Okay. Coming up to start the last lap, I think it's going to need a miracle now for Sebastian to make up this time. But Edward Cavalier making it very difficult for Sebastian to get past there.
So yeah, the hat-trick of wins for Sebastian Job doesn't seem like it's going to quite come off of this little preview series, but then equally Riku Alatalo threw away the win in the opening round by short fueling his car and having to coast over the line just to take second position. So yeah, 1 win it seems for Riku coming up, with 2 for Sebastian for this little series. Further back, the rest of the field's pretty well strung out. Philip Labour still in 3rd, Simon Hulbert in 4th, Kip Dent pulling away from George Wiseman 5th and 6th, Matt Defoe not really closing quick enough on George Wiseman to move any further, Bart Delat then in 8th, Fahim Antonandez in 9th, and Tapani Haka is currently in 10th position. That looks like the standings that we're going to see in 1 more lap's time.
I think the only real move they can be now is in this little fight between Matt Defoe and George Wiseman. They're only sort of separated by half a second at the moment. Getting the message through as well that Sebastian Job over field, so Riku definitely got enough fuel in his car this time to finish the race. Sebastian obviously contingency plans there just in case, sticking some extra fuel in the car.
And so Riku Alatalo makes his way through the penultimate corner. There's 1 final corner to go now, turn 16, as he comes onto the front straight and takes his first win in the Skip Barber 2K Cup. Moves over to the pit wall to celebrate with his imaginary pit crew. Sebastian Job seems pretty happy as well with second position. And then we are waiting next then for Philip Labour to come across in 3rd. Nice and careful through the final corner, but no, there's a big old slide through turn 15 just to make sure you finish with a little bit of flamboyance. So 3rd position for Philippe. Simon Hulbert, first race in this little series. Good job finishing in 4th. I did wonder if we'd see him a little bit further up the grid. He looked closer to the leaders in practice. 5th position then for Kip Dent, 6th position for George Wiseman, and Matt Defoe did manage to close further in that last lap, 7th, but not enough, so finishes in 7th position. Bart Delat then recovering from his earlier spin in 8th. He'll still be happy with that, I'm sure, but it could have been a lot better. Could have been up there challenging for a podium spot, I think. Fahim Antonandez and in 9th, with Tapani Haka in 10th, Kartik Pai in 11th, John Unsby then in 12th, Edward Cavalier in 13th, and that's all the runners that are still on the lead lap. Everybody else has been lapped, so that should then bring us with Carlos Casas in 14th, Adrian Saldana in 15th, and then not finishing was Graham Carroll with the blown engine, and Duncan Coppedge with a hardware problem of some description, finishing in 17th.
Yeah, we're just watching John Underby, the last runner coming across the line to finish off proceedings.
So that was a great little battle most of the way through the field, to be fair, for the majority of the race. So we had those little groupings build up earlier on, the top three, and then little pairings after that. We still haven't seen quite the trainer cars like we did in the very first round, like in the same way in the second. But good race, better frankly than we had at COTA last week. So whether that was just the drivers or the track and car combination or the weather, but yeah, good fun race. Seemed like a tricky track for these cars. We saw lots of little errors, lots of oversteer moments as we were heading through the race.
Yeah, it was some good fighting going on, and I sometimes think all these newer tracks and the bigger tracks that we get is not always necessarily the better ones. Some of these tracks like Barber and Road Atlanta, for instance, can dish up some really saucy encounters.
So yeah, really looking forward to the start of a full season, which, as I say, I believe should be from next week then, to coincide with season 1 of the Skip Barber official series. It'll be really interesting to see which of the drivers who we've seen in this preview series sign up for the real series, the full season. These guys will have a little bit of a head start, of course, with how they need to manage fuel, for instance, because that's not part of the official iRacing Skip Barber series that they may otherwise run. I'm expecting, a good half dozen cars at least who could be fighting for the win probably each and every week.
Yeah, we had most of these guys, or everybody that signed up, sort of drop in little batches over the 3 races. It'll be nice to see them all coming together on a single big grid, and see what happens.
So we shall hang around for a moment just in case anybody does decide to quickly jump into the TeamSpeak channel for an interview. But otherwise then, I am just in the process of trying to find where the first season, or the first race, of the season is going to be held in the Skip Barber 2K Cup.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look in the channels to see if Sebastian was lurking around, but it seems like he's made a run for it.
So I'm expecting us to be at Lime Rock Park next week, which looks like it's going to be full circuit with no poxy little stupid chicane between turns 5 and 6, which will be good. That I think is going to be a great circuit for these little cars. Tight and narrow like Barber, elevation changes, very, very fast corners. The second half of the circuit is blindingly quick, turns 5, 6 and 7. So I can see that being a real train of cars again, slipstreaming through the second half of the lap and just trying to stay with each other in the first half. So I'm very much looking forward to that already.
Yeah, and the only thing I know about Lime Rock is it's got a terrifying pit entry. Sort of almost like a little chicane leading into the pits. Very easy to get wrong as well.
Yeah, and very easy to overcook turn 1 as well. It really draws you in, and you end up slowing all the way through the corner leading into turn 2. So I can imagine we may see a couple of excursions into the grass, perhaps there early in the race. Right, so I think we're going to be wrapping up the broadcast as nobody else has come to join us. I'm sure we'll see some interviews once the full season gets started properly. Remember to subscribe to ARL TV on YouTube. Make sure you're not going to miss the broadcast of our race next week. I will put in a sneaky little promo as well for the fact that if you are interested in the Oculus Rift DK2 that has come out, I'm hoping to put a video out in the next day or two. I'm hopefully receiving mine tomorrow. I'll give my quick first impressions of what that's like, and I hear murmurs that we may be able to hack together a very basic working version for iRacing itself, so we can see what that's like and explore that in the future as well. Right, thank you very much, Conrad, for joining me again in the booth, and to Alex working the cameras all season long, as pretty much any time we see an ARL TV broadcast, guys, it's poor Alex Simpson working the cameras every race in silence. And we look forward to seeing you all in round 1 at Skip Barber 2K Cup next Sunday at 8 o'clock GMT. Thank you very much, and we shall see you then.
What is so important about driving faster than anyone else?
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.